Hey, what's up, people? Another episode of the Edgy&Weird podcast. I'm here with my friend and boss, Mr. Adam Kirchman. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's about time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
This is the most formal it's going to get, is me introducing you. Other than that, this is going to be us talking shit.
Okay.
And,
I get that.
yeah, man, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be on here plenty of times, but as far as topics go, this will probably evolve into something, maybe evolve into something pretty good. But let's just start with what we just witnessed.
Okay.
With the boys. So we just watched the last episode of The Boys.
Awesome show.
Awesome show. The reason why I want to start with that is because, first of all, it's current.
Right.
It's not something I always do in here. Like, I'll go back to fucking 1930, bro, and break something.
Well, that
down
show does that.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Which is kind of the scary part. Is that, all right, first of all...
Because we devolved in the 30s.
Well,
nationally, we evolved into that state.
I think that's part of it, but part of that also involves the evolution as well. The evolution is more in the tech industry, in the way we've tried to view emotion in the past 10 years, I suppose. Probably strongly in the past 5. But they all go back to something that probably goes way back to even before the 30s. That's the insecurity of the human individual, the need for validation, hierarchy, and how other people with their own agendas can poison those hierarchies. You know, that has remained a constant for thousands of years, I think. The only thing that's different now is social media and the woke movement, which the woke movement to me is just changing into a variation of that, another system of control with a hierarchy that says, if not our way, you will be destroyed. You know?
Right. And I see that in all those characters. It's trying to definitely conquer a very multifaceted issue. And in what you were saying, I was thinking about how in the political climate that we are today, it's almost like we haven't really made any change at all to our psyche. Like we're still, as a nation and as a planet, continuing to struggle with this concept of what is civil and what is justice, what is right, what is acceptable, what is morally apprehensible, and where our limits are. And then the show The Boys really does bring up a good point where I don't feel, and I don't think the people who made the show feel, that we have made any movement. We're just picking new demons. We're picking new things to help. I mean, you look at like giving people the right to vote, or women were given the right to vote after black people.
Yeah.
So, and then I think about that point. It's like you're really just picking two fundamentally flawed rich people with different agendas. And I haven't seen any politician make it to a point where they can actually do anything, because if they get to that higher point, I was just listening to this guy who's running for Senate. He's 25 years old, and he hasn't
heard about it.
And young guy, and they were asking him, about, he was told that he needs to work his way up. He's new to politics. They say, hey, you got to work your way up. And he said, no, I'm not doing that, because what you're doing is you're acclimating me into this pool in order to be,
indoctrinated into their system, pretty much.
Yeah, to the system. And he's like, I'm not gonna play that game. I'm not gonna do that. And I applaud that. I applaud the few young politicians out there that are saying, I've had enough of being. And I actually thank Bernie Sanders for that, kind of putting that fire to the younger people and saying, if you want to make any kind of justice in our system, get involved. The ship of state turns very slowly. It becomes even slower when you've got somebody who takes the wheel and then turns it back the other way. So all the movement that you've made to get this ship turned, now all of a sudden you got this guy grabbing it and pulling it back over this way. And you're just like, wait, now I got to go back again.
And he's still telling you, no, we're going this way.
Right.
And there's other people saying, no, we're still going this way.
You've told the captain for about 20 years that, we are going that way. It's cool. But in reality, then they catch on. They're like, wait, no, we're not. And then they start turning it again. But by that time,
it's too late. It's too late. We're already heading
and
towards
then you
the cliff.
Introduce technologies and medications and food additives and things that are progressing and creating new problems. And so it's just an ongoing. It feels impossible. We create science. Like we discover a new thing, a new chemical, a new say just for example like hemp. They created synthetic fibers for ropes. And they're like, hey, we could probably use this for to replace hemp. And they just find a new thing, implement the thing, and then they don't really stop and say, is this really necessary, or are we just trying to
is this productive?
We're trying to create something new to consume.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, hemp was the replacement of a lot of things, and that was the reason for the whole demonization of marijuana and everything.
Right, yeah.
was to take hemp completely out of the picture, and whoa, did they succeed for about 60 or 70 years doing that.
Yeah, well, you also have that, and you have I forgot what was the other example.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: to this young guy, let's just hope that he's not another Madison Cawthorn, just on the other side. Madison Cawthorn is the dude that the Republican dude that was in the wheelchair.
Oh God!
That blamed his blamed his friend who actually helped save his life.
He also, but that's a great example of how.
You don't need that on the right. We need more of a Pete Buttigieg.
Right.
If you want to go younger and
but he
somebody who's a little bit
like he's said and done it. When you
no.
Hang out
the
with your
Democratic Party shot him in the foot. They shot him in the foot, and I get. Look, if you're trying to get someone who's perfect across the board, who hasn't had to deal with a board of people and have to deal with people with all of their own agendas while you are still trying to do something good, if that's what you're trying to do, I'm not saying that that's what he is trying to do. I'm saying, as far as what I've heard, even from the black people, saying, racist, blah, 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 and all this bullshit, cutting through all that. From what I've heard, this guy actually wants to do a good thing.
Right.
All right? But he was in, where was it? Indiana? South Bend, Indiana.
No, it's North Carolina. No, North Carolina or South Carolina? No, it's North Carolina.
No, South Bend, Indiana. I'm talking about Buttigieg.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about the guy.
And which is, it's adjacent to Ohio. They're not, in fact, known for their non-racism. Let's put it there.
Yeah.
They're more so known for the other.
Well,
and he's fighting against that. And if you think, okay, what was he? The mayor? Or the whatever? And they're like, your track record. Okay. You should definitely look at an individual's agenda, especially if they're somebody who's leading the party. You should try to. You're never going to know it exactly. But you should definitely look at it. But you also need to look at the bigger picture of the things that are around them that they have to face. Probably around for decades, if not at least a century. I mean, anyone who's trying to do something good, do you think they're ever going to paint that person in a good picture, or are they just going to try to get them painted in a bad picture? Okay.
Right.
And then as far as, I don't think the political structure represents America at all. generally speaking, most of the people that got in there, if not all of them, have lied to get where they are.
Well, that's why,
so then what is their true agenda? So then if I'm trying to look through that, if you go into this situation saying I want to make changes, but I know I have to lie to get there.
Right.
Well, first of all, it's going to take a really particular person to be able to stay on that track without getting bent out of shape, without getting persuaded by the lobbyists and some other form of distraction.
Well, also I think that
but going through all that, because I listened to this with him, with Buttigieg, and with Obama, and with the very few other people who I feel have actually tried to change things. But with everything else in there, along with them muddying the water.
Well, I think also people who have great intentions, even people who like Obama, who's a very educated person, studied law and all these fantastic classes and learn things. But I think that there's even a point where you get to an office.
By the way, before you continue, his education, yes, but his empathy to me was the overriding factor of it all.
Well, the problem also is that when you get there, I think you find out things like new obstacles. Like if I do this, then these people are screwed. And if I do this, then these people are screwed. And then it just kind of like
you have to make all these choices.
And you have to make, like, for example, like coal. For example, like it's absolutely important to get off coal, but there are entire cities whose families have been living off of the little bit of money or resources that coal has given them. And so now you take that away and they have nothing there. So you have to find a way to replace all those communities' income.
I think it's possible.
Or just make, and you have to do it. You have to make that thing. So you're sacrificing people. You're putting people's livelihood. They become the martyrs.
I think we've decided that is the norm because that has been the precedent. But I don't really think that anyone actually needs to be sacrificed. I think there's enough resource and enough back resource.
Well,
if we actually want to, like in America, when you have a place where, by the way, the ruling class is not white, it's rich.
Right. Yeah.
And that just happens to be, generally speaking, mostly white people. And I think there's a few black people, and are they necessarily invited to the fucking rich parties? Not necessarily. There's probably a hierarchy in there, but I wouldn't see someone who's even close to being a billionaire that's black even wanting to participate in that type of thing.
What comedian was it that said that there aren't any rich black people? There are wealthy black people, but they're not rich. He used the example of like Michael Jordan is wealthy. The guy who writes Michael Jordan's check is rich.
Yeah,
and that's there's a
distinction. I'm really talking about more so the two that I know, and maybe a couple others, and that's Oprah and Jay-Z.
Right.
Who if they're not billionaires, they're scratching the fucking surface. But like, are they going to be at the same parties as Bezos and fucking?
Do they want to be?
No, that's the point. They don't want to be. They're like, they're going to lynch us and take our money, so we're just going to stay home and be rich. We're going to do our thing, but we're going to do that shit from home, bro.
It is also, you get to that point of wealth and fame. You look at the Fresh Prince. You look at,
big old smacking Willie.
Right. Yeah. You get a situation where you are under the cameras. Everything you do is magnified a billion times. I mean, I've known tons of people who've gotten pissed off and hit somebody or did something physical or verbally abusive, and then they can grow from it, heal from it, and go on. But when you're under the spotlight and you're famous, everything's just magnified 1,000 times. I mean, they've canceled so many things for him. He's been scrapped.
Well, he'll be fine. He's a multi-millionaire. I don't mean he'll be fine, but
He lost a lot.
He'll be fine as far as
I'm not feeling sorry for him.
I do feel sorry for him.
I told him he's a rich guy. He's going to be rich for the rest of his life.
But I feel sorry for most of them. I do. There's only a few people I don't, and that's good old. Trump.
I guess I can feel sorry.
I have pity for them.
I can feel sorry for somebody who is, I guess,
because they have to deal with the same things that we do. They just have money. To me, that's the closest thing you're going to get to having a superpower. You know, which that just means you're a human with a superpower. That doesn't make you any less human. You still have to deal with regret, with validation, with hatred, with pity, with love, with jealousy. And you have to deal with all of those things. You just have this extra thing that you have. But does that mean that you have gained the ability to control it?
The reason why I don't feel sorry for rich people who make mistakes and is magnified 1,000 times is the fact that, like, this country, this world, has an economic limit. And it is because there are these few people who have millions.
The economic limit is a facade.
Right, but you're pulling this blanket.
It's a facade.
But it's still a facade that's being created. Like, the facade doesn't... It's not a facade for me when I have to pay my bills.
No. I
can't print the money.
I mean the blanket over this whole culture that there is...
Right. What I'm saying is that
there is a limit.
But there is an economic blanket over our planet.
I'll say there's an economic wool.
There are
a wool that keeps us from seeing the things that we could do.
Right, but I'm saying that somebody's pulling that blanket.
Or covering our eyes.
Well, no, I'm using a different analogy.
Oh, okay.
You're changing my analogy. I'm saying they're pulling the blanket off of a lot of other people. And as long as if I have a ton of money, an excessive amount of money, and I've pulled that blanket off of, I've been a part of. It's like if you're at a rally for something you believe in, or you think you believe in, and you see, Nazis and Klans members in your rally, you're on the wrong side of the fence.
I agree.
And the same thing with the rich is that you have decided to be. You can give that money away. You can start. Yeah. You can make it so that, hey, I'm comfortable with $200,000 a year. I know there's gonna be more money coming in, but I can distribute it. Yeah. That's the myth that they love to give, is that, like, the trickle down economics is like, well, the more you give to the rich, the more it helps. It just trickles down. Because what happens? A rich person,
they covet as well.
I mean, how many pairs of jeans can one rich man buy? How many, like, blankets do they need? Towels they need? They're not redistributing that wealth. It's not going to help everybody else out. Oh, now you can buy a more expensive blanket or pillow. I was like, no, that's not how it works. They're not going to, like, buy enough blankets and pillows for everybody to redistribute. But they can find ways. And I think that would be
not even find ways. They could just pay for it.
I think that if we had a system that said, okay, there is a cap on how much you can hoard, rather than reprinting more and more money, why not just say, okay, you there shooting penis rockets into space, like, how about you not do that?
Yeah, and give that $1 billion that you spent there.
Yeah, and distribute it amongst the people. You're not allowed to. We have all these laws against hurting people, but then we're ignoring the one most painful and most epidemic, like, crime. And
it's kept us hurt.
Right.
And that's the funny thing.
It's ruined our politics. It's, like, destroyed everything.
The political portion is tertiary at this point, to the actual problem. It is literally the human individual, number one, and the human community, number two, and the validation, whatever community you set yourself up, and then the political structure comes after that. All right. Meaning they are the weakest part of our society. They, even though they have the most power,
right?
It's literally built on people with extreme validation issues, extreme narcissism, right? And so they're willing they're willing to say whatever they think you want to hear until someone else more powerful than you comes along, people with all the money pushing an agenda, and then they'll just follow that. And then it doesn't matter what the people have to say, because they didn't get in there off of what the people thought anyway.
Right.
They got on there by lying to the people to get where they were, to get where they wanted
and
to go.
I would include Oprah in that.
I would include Oprah in that. I would include Obama in that.
And I think the reason why she has a special place in the area of wealth that I dislike Oprah, and the reason why I dislike her is that she pushes this concept, new age concept of the law of attraction. The book, The Secret. She pushed this book, and
I don't even know about that book.
Basically,
but everyone talks about it.
But basically, the idea that you can put all you want, desire in this world can be yours. All of it. You put up a dream board, you get pictures of all the things you want, and you just, every morning you get up, you look at your board, and you say, I want that, and I'm going to get that. And the law of attraction is real. If you get up in the morning and say, my life is shit, your life's going to be shit that day. Because you're just kind of manifesting that attitude, it's going to happen. If you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a good day, I'm worth it, that's going to resonate.
It's going to resonate. I love how you put that. Because if you say I'm going to have a shitty day,
right,
you're going to have a shitty day. But if you say I'm going to have a good day, it's going to resonate because it doesn't necessarily mean realistic. Yeah.
But the thing is, what upset me about it was really, I feel that Oprah pushed that because it's a form of placating her guilt. I think she realizes she has an overabundant amount of money. She represents a minority class. She's very lucky. She has gifts that she's utilized. Whatever. But she's gifted, and she realizes that these things are not something that, she doesn't want to take it for granted. So what she does is she attaches this life motto of the law of attraction, because the flip side of the law of attraction is, well, if something horrible does happen to you,
it's your fault.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
And I've done all this good in my life, and that's why the world has gifted me all this great wealth and abundance.
Yeah.
And they push that idea of abundance. There's plenty for you. Get all that you want. And that is just pushing this concept of consumerism and allowing her to feel great about having an oversized house, having cars that are too expensive, like just things that you just don't fucking need. You don't need these things, but as long as you believe that you're good and you deserve it, it makes you feel okay.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a Rolls Royce.
Having 12?
Well, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
But my point is,
and I'm not saying that she has to have 12 Rolls Royces.
No, but my point is not it's not the semantics involved. I don't think there's anything wrong with having an abundance, but when you're doing that at the expense,
it's going
or it doesn't have to be. Like, it literally doesn't. When you have one person, we don't just have one, with over $200 billion, you tell me why some people can't even get a Rice Krispie treat. That doesn't fucking compute. Like, we literally, one of those people could literally change the dynamic of this whole nation. One of them could make it to where we all didn't have to suffer. Literally one. And we've got at least 10.
Right.
And
it's getting fewer.
Yeah. Hours. So that's where Oprah's argument falls by the wayside. Because no, lady, you were lucky. Yeah. And you were smart and diligent, and I will give you smart and diligent. But you were also fucking lucky. Right. If you think she doesn't realize that, and everyone, not everyone, but the ones that are following
and there's
her thing
a lot of people
are doing that to placate their guilt. So they're coming up with these philosophies that they know aren't necessarily fucking true.
I don't think she came up with it.
Or adopting these philosophies. Saying things, putting it in a broad blanket like it's just that easy. Like, everyone grew up where you were, or everyone grew up in the house that you grew up. Let's just say you grew up in Compton and made it out.
Right.
Like, who were your surrounding areas? Who were the people that you met during that time? You know, how was your own mind? What was your discipline? All of those things factor in. And by the way, having a sound mind and having discipline
is not
indicative of success. There have been many people that have died with that discipline that you have, Oprah.
Right, yeah.
They're dead though.
Right.
And they're black. Or they're white. Or they're Spanish. Or they're probably black. If they're white, they're probably rich. You know, let's be honest. I mean, there's definitely been some that have fallen by the wayside. We don't know their names because they're dead. But definitely, proportionally, we can obviously see the difference.
I'm pretty diligent, but it gets me only as far as, you know, where I am, I guess.
Exactly, but you could, if there have been different breaks, and if you haven't met me,
but also
you could have been rich already.
I could also be rich if I decided to run my business in a way that stiff people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that, like, I know the steps to get up there. You have to step on people.
You don't. Actually, now there's YouTube, and now there's fucking all types of other
But I don't know of any rich people.
They're there.
That got there by not.
They're just on YouTube. There's millionaires on TikTok. There's fucking millionaires on fucking Instagram. And all they do is go, and everyone looks at them.
There's somebody right there. Somebody just liked you, and you did that with your titties.
Oh, well, yeah. There you go. Fucking hell.
Well done. There you go.
What?
But also, I think there's a guy I read, Alan Watts, as a Zen Buddhist teacher. He's passed a long time ago. But one of the things he said that I just like to push out there is that he says the United States, the Western world, is not materialistic.
Sure it is.
And the reason why he said that is he says, if you're materialistic, you have respect for material. You pay homage to material. So trees, water, things that you build, things you create, you have respect for those things, and you want them to be taken care of. You respect it. We don't have that. We have a consumeristic mentality of buy and throw away, buy and throw away, buy garbage, take perfectly good trees, turn it into something that's garbage, throw it away. It's the opposite of materialism. If we had, which is I think is a plan.
He's put.
It's a planned idea. The idea of materialism.
Well, for aspects of materialism, but that's not encompassing the whole thing.
But if we demonize materialism, we demonize it. Then people, I don't want to be materialistic, so I'm not going to actually respect this material. I'm not going to take care of my car. I'm not going to take care. It'll just break down. I'll buy another one.
Right.
I don't want to be materialistic. I don't want to be. At the same time, what do? I mean, everything we're building, everything we create now. I mean, we build stuff all the time together, working on houses, and the stuff that they're building now, like cabinets or whatever, is pressed wood.
They're built to degrade.
Built to fall apart. And so we purposely work our asses off to make sure that the stuff that when it was built, when people had a form of materialism, they were like, oh, let's build a nice cabinet out of wood and it'll last for 120 years. It can last a whole lot longer now if there's people who know how to go back and use those same old school techniques to put it back to rebuild it,
to maintain,
right, to have true materialism.
Yeah.
So, like, see an object, respect it, care for it, and then let it last another 120 years.
Yeah, I mean, well, there is also a narcissism built into materialism, and I think that's what was it, Alan Watts?
Alan Watts.
Alan Watts was going into. That is an aspect of materialism. Now, by the way, I'm not a fucking expert on this shit, but just if I'm going with my foolish perception, it's there's that aspect of materialism, but there's also the one that adds narcissism, and that's where the material possession is coveted.
Above other people?
Huh?
Above other people.
Above other people. Right. And that's where the narcissism as well comes in.
Well,
and I mean, It's great if you're using the material possessions. It's not great. It's fine if you're using them to validate a genuine position that you've already, come to, as in not one that screws people over, as one that you genuinely worked hard and now you have these material possessions. By the way, you would probably appreciate them more if they came by genuine means.
But what are the good things that come from being a narcissist?
Movies, comedy, everything that most of the people that are prominent. Those are the good things about narcissism. Every one of those people are narcissistic. Every one of them, including myself.
If you get up in the morning, yeah, I'm narcissistic too.
We all are, but I'm talking about a bit more.
If you think you're good enough, like we were listening to that podcast between Obama and Bruce Springsteen, and they both admitted to some form of megalomania, because they said in order to think that you know something that's so important that the entire world, if you think that you're a musician that's so great, the entire world needs to hear what I just did.
Yeah.
That takes, and so the greatest people I think that we have
channeled that
in the right way. That form of narcissism, and made changes. So it's important to have some level of narcissism. Like if I'm going to build a cabinet, if I'm going to build,
it's important to understand what it is. Yeah, and definitely to have it. I mean, and to incorporate it moderately with everything else, with a genuine nature. Incorporating narcissism with a genuine nature is good,
right?
Because you will genuinely try to use that trait that you have for something that's not bad. Understanding what it is, though, and that also includes checking your inside pockets.
Right.
Narcissism is sociopathy is just bad.
Right. There's no way.
But jealousy can also be used in ways like, look, these are all words describing feelings or experiences that we have, but none of them have to be evil or good. It depends on the person wielding them.
Which is funny because pride is a sin.
Unless,
right? Pride is unless it's for the glory of God.
Unless it's pride in my family and pride in my heritage, then it's not seen as a sin.
On top of that, the preacher on the pulpit saying, "Man, you gotta steer clear of pride. That's sin." Well, he has to have some bit of pride to think
that he can stand up
there and be able to say that to all those people. Somehow you have this knowledge that God is graced with you, that you can stand up there in front of all these people and tell me what sin is.
Quite hypocritical, isn't it?
It is. It's naturally hypocritical.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least those people, at least the preachers that lash themselves at night, at least recognize there's some form of humility to the point of hurting themselves.
I mean, look, I would say this for anyone, and to me, most of it's preaching. If you're doing it in church, or you're doing it in front of an organization, or whatever it might be, it's all preaching, and it's all believing that you are capable of being up there.
Right.
Which definitely incorporates a portion of narcissism.
At least realize that you're up there and you're a hypocrite.
But if you go up there and say exactly what you just said, like, look, I realize I do hypocritical things, but here's why I'm up here and I'm telling you this.
Right.
Because I understand this part of it. And I think if we all understood that, we could all move forward.
I think that's where religion fails.
Is being honest.
It's being honest, and also recognizing that there is a Christ. Like I'm not Christian, but my understanding of the term and the idea of the Christ is like an essence of perfect self, a perfect being.
This is where we've had an argument. Go ahead.
Yeah, I won't go into that.
No, you can't. This is what the podcast is about.
But
stop that. Going.
But the Gnostics, who wrote most of the scriptures,
well, the thing is, I agree with you.
They had a concept of what it is to be a perfect being, and I see the Bible as an allegory.
Definitely.
It's not literal. I see great correlations between
except for the parts that are
Plato's Republic in the Cave allegory with the story of Jesus. You have Jesus was not born in a manger. If he was born, he was probably in a cave. They found shelter where they could, and it would have been a cave.
Could there have been a manger in a cave?
It could have been. But the idea, but the story, I think, was they were writing a story of an allegory of a man born of, which is interesting, Nazareth. The word Nazareth, the actual root word for Nazareth is Nazarene.
Yeah, he was a Nazarene.
Right. Nazarene means initiate. So
it's also a place.
Right, but he was born of initiate. He was born an initiate. He was born, came out of the cave, right? Crucified, died, was put into a cave, came to enlightenment, and was reborn out of the cave. It's a cycle. It's a circular story. It's a circular allegory. There's so many things. If the church hadn't just compressed the Bible and edited it to public, and allowed all the information to come out, you could be able to live your life more fully in this idea of Christianity. But I think that when you watered it down to be a form of control for our system, then it makes it impossible to come to any kind of enlightenment through self. So you have to go to church.
Well, I mean, I'd say that's where
because I can interpret it my way. I don't have to go to the church. I don't have to go to the church, but the church doesn't like you doing that.
No, but guess who else does it? Democrats, Republicans.
Well, yeah.
Anyone in any organized, what I call them all, religions.
And
they're religions, and so
we do it to each other on a lower level, on an incremental level, every day.
Yeah.
We sell our minds. We sell our beliefs and ideas. Oh, I see how you see it. I understand that. But this is how, and that's the thing, is like, I was a social worker for many, many years, and one of the philosophies I always went by is that you never stand in front of the person you're speaking to or you're helping in judgment. If I stand in front of you and say, hey, this is how you should really live your life, you should do this, they're going to dig their heels in, because you're being judgmental. Whether you mean to or not, you're telling them that you
whether you're right
or whether you're
or not.
Right. So the proper process that I felt was effective was, rather than standing in front of them and telling them this is how you live your life, you stand beside them and you look at the perspective that they're looking at, and then you relate to them. You say, yes, you know what, I can see why you made that choice. I can see why that would make sense. And then ask questions and really, really empathize with them, really get in there and truly understand what they're looking at and why they made that path. But then say, once you've made that understood, that you really empathize with them, then you say, see that, but have you ever thought of that one, that path, that way?
And then in some way present it different.
Present it differently, because then what happens is they stop. They're like, oh, well, he took the time to really consider my life and how I live it and how I see the world. I'll look at how he's looking too, and then they'll look, and then they can then make a choice on their own.
Yeah,
because that's the only way. You can't make somebody take those steps.
You can't make someone make a choice,
but you can relate to them, empathize, understand in the truest way possible, and then maybe they'll do that for you, and then
or maybe they'll just do that,
or maybe they won't. But the thing is also to have that.
Well, there's a few things that are. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I'm just saying that being able to see people make bad, poor choices and continue to do so, and if you've made your best effort, you can step back and really not take it personal. And I think that's another thing that people tend to do, is they bear other people's crosses.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your perception creates most of your demons.
Right.
By the way, from outside influences, it's generally speaking something someone said to you, something you witnessed, or whatever it is, and those things create your own. They create your demons because they go inside. You personalize them, which you should never do, ever. I mean, I'm not even from your children, not from your parents, not from anybody. You got to understand, everyone least of all children, but everyone is dealing with their own perception of things that they've dealt with through the world, and that's how they're responding to you.
Right.
So even what you say to
you're a distorted mirror.
Yes.
Everyone is just a distorted mirror for everyone else.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, so like so when it comes to that, like narcissism in that way is just a word. It's just unfortunately been put on the side of wrong. But most people that have influenced us are narcissistic.
Right.
You know? That's why they got out there and they did it anyway.
Right.
You know?
And good.
But then it also incorporates.
You could be narcissistic without being.
It also incorporates some of the stuff we were talking about the boys. Right. You know, like Ashley, the girl with the hair, the girl that got her hair ripped out. She's narcissistic, right? She's got a goal.
And
she wants to be
control.
Well, yeah.
That's what freaked that thing.
Validation, everything, you know, all of that fucking. But she says things at her own point, like the shit she pointed out to A-Train about. Oh, now you want to say this after you killed this person, you murdered your girlfriend.
Yeah.
You were ODing and all this, but now it's that important to you, this racist aspect, because it's your brother? Go fuck yourself.
Right.
And I was like, bravo. You know? And I would have said that just as easily if she was black and he was white. In the opposite positions. Because he was being a narcissist bordering on sociopathy. She was being a narcissist, but she was also pointing out some right facts. And this is the thing that we have to fucking always fucking muddle through. It's not that simple. You know, what is evil? Well, that's complicated. What is good? Well, that's complicated.
Well, and I'm reminded that, you know, it's why I have a tattoo of a quote from Clockwork Orange, my daughter's name. And it's not, you know, it says Ava, which is my daughter's name, not wound by God or devil. And Clockwork Orange is not wound by God or devil. And that being, I don't want my daughter to be a good person based on the morals and guidelines of just me, or just a Bible, or a religion, or some philosopher. It's good to read those things, good to bring those ideas into your mind. But I want you to be a good person because you are a good person.
Yeah.
And these decisions you're making are yours.
Yeah. And reflect who you are. You know. Not wound by God, or not bound by God or the devil. But
not wound.
Not wound.
Like a clock is
wound. I would say wound or bound.
Right. Well, yeah.
But influenced by the two. Why? Because they're there. And they are a part of the influence. And to ignore that is to ignore what's around you.
And they create the society we live in.
Yeah.
So if you want to know why someone's treating you a certain way, or you want to know why a person's racist, or you want to know why the society is as fucked up as it is, then you have to start looking at the philosophies in which they carry.
Yeah.
You know, what religions, what philosophers, what people and their flaws. We tend to put people on pedestals, and like, you know, the Fresh Prince of Slapface.
Slapface, Will Smith.
Yeah, you know, like we put him on a pedestal and he let us down.
Ow! That nigga just slapped me in the face!
He was a mistake he made, and he's going to have to live with the consequences.
And it's okay. You don't have to.
But if we didn't put him on a pedestal, we put Hollywood and these people on a pedestal because they, you know, whatever reason they got where they are.
That's less them than us. But we're going to pause here.
Okay.
Because I got to take a pee.